Yo, what's up guys, Zarkus here. Today I'm going to be showing you some pretty effective kiting routes you can take on Arms Factory, Sacred Heart and Red Church. So I just did this in a custom with Eric. I didn't go bomb, I went Vio and Sculpt, so you'll see. But he played better. Also, I'm going to put a timer on for how long I was technically on him, or how much time I was wasting chasing him, so you can get a good perspective of how good this is. So he throws down Gold Pallet, vaults the window, takes the boost, and heads off into 3 pallets in middle. You'll see he does this pretty much constantly, but he's constantly throwing down a pallet and then transitioning, or throwing down 2 pallets, transitioning, etc. Because that's one of the best ways, if not the best way, to kite the majority of hunters. So I take down the pallet on Vio, with Vio, and then he throws down that one, and continues moving. Yeah, I kind of fucked up my note there because I just assumed he'd go over and vault this pallet. He then just does take the vault and checks behind him to see that I'm taking down the pallet, and then sees that I am, so goes off to shack. Now, every single shack pallet in this entire game on every single map is a god pallet. So it's a good abuse because you've got the window and you've got the pallet. And once he's got his boost back, which he does for windows, he can take the boost on the window and head off back to middle and then transition over to factory. So he dodges my notes, and then I hit him through the pallet here. He then takes the boost and heads off back into middle again, which is what I said he should do just then. So that's as perfect as he could play it there. Now, since he's used a lot of the pallets in middle, he can use these pallets just here. I don't know if he would have had enough time to throw the pallet down. Regardless, it was a good note. I think he tries to use his bat here. If he'd gone into rage mode, he could have got the stun on me, but I then blink kill him. Now that's a 90-second kite, just over, and that's enough time for at least 2 ciphers to be popped, and if there's a merc, it'll definitely be popped by the time he's been put on chair. And that's setting them up for a guaranteed draw and then probably a win. So the next game, we're on Red Church, and he spawns in shack. Now this shack isn't the best shack, so it doesn't actually have a pallet. But the way to get out of this sort of area, he said, I'm going to stay here. But the way to get out of this area is to use a boost from any window and then get into middle. Now in the middle of Red Church, sorry I fucked up my note there, but in the middle of Red Church, what you want to do is throw this pallet down just where he's running past now. Throw that pallet down and then take the pallet boost and get off to graveyard. But it's a pallet you'd pre-throw at the beginning of the match. It wasn't thrown though, because he doesn't have any teammates, so he heads off into middle reception, or middle broken, whatever people call it. So he's doing some good mind games here, and this is like, considering it's the worst side of the map, he does a good dodge there by the way, but considering that's the worst side of the map, it's not a bad area, it's got plenty of pallets. The only issue is it doesn't have a window. And that's kind of what separates this side of the map from the other side, is that the other side may have slightly less pallets, but it's got more windows, and that really allows for the transitional kite. So he gets his window boost back, takes that window, and then heads off into the other side of the map. Now he actually heads off to the right here and uses this window. He loops this window, because it is a relatively strong window, but I guess he's just waiting down his boost. He then realises I'm going back in, and that's put more distance between him and me, and it means he can properly get off into graveyard. Now I do a note here which he dodges. It's a good dodge on his end. He walks through the pallet and then throws this pallet down. Now, the important thing with Graveyard is, it's okay to sort of spam all the pallets down because it's a decent loop, but it's not the best loop in the game. So throwing a lot of the pallets down is strong. This right here is probably the only god pallet in this map. That's a really, really strong pallet there, because it allows for the transition from back gate to graveyard. He did a really good stun with this bat there. Now, this kite is like 2 minutes long. Now, any decent hunter would down him here, but because I'm a bit special, right, I don't down him. But yeah, so we'll give it a 2 minute kite. I do get him down pretty quickly here, with quite a strange note, because it's tiny, but it gets him anyway. So it's a minimum 2 minute kite, that's 120 seconds. That's got to be a guaranteed win unless the hunter stack saves. So, next map. Now, everyone knows that the hospital's fucking broken. So I told him not to abuse hospital, but you guys know Eric, he's a bitch, so... he didn't abuse it too hard, but he did use it a bit, which I'm still a bit pissed off with him about. Now, my sculptor's improving a bit, but it's not the best. Regardless, he heads off behind Shack, which is honestly a good rotating spot early game, especially with hunters that don't have any speed boost like Sculptor. So he runs straight into hospital, and then takes this boost here. Now, you can either take this boost and then loop back round, which is what Eric does here, or you can take the boost on the right window, and then loop back round the other way. So it works out either way, and also if I'm running up, he can then take the other loop, which is exactly what he did here. Now, because he doesn't have his speed boost, he doesn't have enough time to get back in, so he goes into these pallets here, waits for his boost, and then the best play for him would be to then try and get back into hospital. As you can see, I did quite a good statue there. I know to most Sculptor mains that's nothing, but to me, who's not a Sculptor main, I'm pretty happy with that. Now, he uses out here. I try and dodge that. You can see I literally turn around, but the weird ass hitbox, so I do end up hitting him. So he heads off towards Ruins, which is honestly one of the best areas in the entire game, let alone just this map. I get really close to him, so I start spamming statues, which doesn't work. So I then get the regular hit on him, and he heads off into Ruins. Now, this kite wasn't the longest of his kites, but we're still at 130 seconds that he's been wasting my time, which is very, very good. He messes up there because he knows he could have avoided that, and he even said that in game as well. So now I let him farm an owl off me, just so he can then effectively be 2-hit for his rebound kite. So he's had a 130-second kite there. That's a 90-second kite. Assuming he's been rescued, by a decent rescue, he hasn't been double hit. He's now looking at his rebound kite. So I get a really good clip statue there. He heads off back into this area, which he didn't waste any pallets earlier, which is what I see a lot of people doing. A lot of people use this area after they get out of Shack, but it's best to just keep running, and if you've got distance, keep running and get into hospital. So he keeps looping me here. He kind of knows at this point that he's not going to last very long, but by this point the ciphers would be minimum down to 2 ciphers, and the 2 ciphers would be pretty close. So I get a really nice clip statue on him there, and now he's on his final kite. So I'd say the cipher at this point is most likely primed. So he gets his second owl off, and my aim is just to get a clip statue on this and then hit him regularly. But he vaults into Shack, gets the boost, and so I start kind of spamming. But the aim is to get a chain off, and it works. So I then clip him with that. So I try and refrain from vaulting in here because I know that he'll just vault out, and he's got the speed boost, as you can see here. He dodges that statue and then vaults back in, and then he needs to get out of Shack because he knows that I would then push in. He heads off into this area here, and this is like pretty safe area for when the cipher's primed because you're kind of not near either gate, and it is pretty irrelevant, and there's 2 pallets and you can kind of last a good time there. He throws the pallet down and I'm like, fuck you, so I blink him. But yeah, these are just some good kiting routes on these 3 maps. I hope you enjoyed the video.